Friends, if you're not watching on YouTube right now, you should be, because Kelly is wearing her kids' headphones, and they're beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful, but it has a crown on it,
It's a whole new world.
and they're what mermaid, Little Mermaid, right?
It's Aladdin, but
Aladdin.
you
Is it
told me to
Al-
find headphones, and this is like my life. This is all that I had right here, right now. All the rest are in a pile. I can't find the end of the cord. And it was trusting God with your kids. So I thought, the kids, I don't know. Can you hear it better if you hear me okay without it?
I think we're good without, Kelly.
Okay.
It's beautiful. They're beautiful.
Because I want to be there for you. If you tell me you need headphones, I've got a pair.
We've got
Right.
quite the pair. Hey, everyone, welcome.
Right?
Welcome to another episode. We're so glad to have you. Hey, if we haven't met, I'm Amanda Davison. I don't know. I always forget to say who I am, but I assume that we're already friends. So I'm Amanda Davison, and Kelly Brinkman is our phenomenal co-host this year on the A Wife Like Me podcast.
This
Kelly,
is me high-fiving you.
we love you. And this is me hugging you because I love hugs. I'm a hugger. It's actually, I'm learning about myself. It's quite, not everyone, appreciates that I'm a hugger. And so I just go in for the kill, man. I'm just like, I've never even met you. I don't even know your name. I'm going to hug you before I probably even hear what your name is. It's just what I do. And then I realize that, I ignore the fact that some people don't want that. I just go for it until it's like maybe a little too late. And then I was like, oh, maybe you didn't want that hug, but it's like, I can't help myself. I just hug people.
Just listen for the words, I'm good. And maybe, people are like, I'm good. Then that's like, just stop going right about there.
Yeah,
I don't hold up a physical barrier. I'm
no,
good.
I won't go in if they're like backing away from me. But typically, I'm just like, hi, and I'm like already going in for it. I don't know. It's probably not. I gotta work on that anyway. Welcome, Kelly Brinkman. If you don't know her, you can find all of her resources, her art. She's a speaker, everything at kellybrinkman.com. That's with 2 N's. That's kind of tricky. So we always link to all the things. So kellybrinkman.com. And we're pumped to be talking about a new topic today on this week's episode. We are going to dive into a blog post by Amanda Flinn. And her blog post, this blog post that she wrote, is Trusting God with Your Kids. And this is going to be good because I'm going to talk about a few things that I've struggled with. Probably not alone, I hope, but this is just super important. I think this is like a big faith step for many of us mamas out there. But it's so good. And she was kind of reflecting on her own journey and recognizing that, maybe I'm not really trusting the Lord with my kids. Why don't you tell us, for you, Kelly, like, how do you struggle with this?
Our kids, they're constantly changing as they grow up. Their ability to do things is not always in line with my expectation of them. So
Wait, say that again.
Their ability to do things is not always in line with what I think they can do.
Your kids.
Right. So that sometimes trips me up, where I'm perhaps hovering more when I realize, they can actually do that. And God has equipped them to be able to do that. Like make dinner. And, our eldest was out making a grilled cheese sandwich. I'm like, oh, that involves a stove. Hold on. And I was in the room and he followed parameters that we'd given him before. But sometimes it's that resetting and realizing that they're always changing, and realizing that as we let out the kite string, so to speak, like I picture time with our kids like flying a kite in a yard or in a field. And as they grow older, I can let out that kite string a little bit more and trust them to fly a little higher, do some more tricks and that. But they are always still connected to the source of the wind. They're connected to the Lord. And really my job as the mama on the ground is to let out that string and to let them fly a little higher and try new things.
When you were just giving that picture of the, if our kids are the kite and the string is connected, I thought you were going to say that they stay connected, to you. I thought that, and isn't that funny? Because as parents, I think that therein lies the trouble. Therein lies our wrestling. Therein lies the tension. Therein lies our hesitation to fully trust, is that I know that I struggle to really recognize I'm not the one. Weird, right? But like, I'm not the one that is directing traffic here.
Right.
Like, just like you said, they are connected to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And our job can be to, from standing there, like maybe encourage, to guide, to challenge, to sharpen, to whatever it might be, depending on the situation. But like, we're not the ones. And we want to be the ones because it makes it feel safer and it makes us feel better. It makes us feel more in charge. And I think that is the challenge. And the question for us is, how do we begin to allow our kids to fly and to have growing pains? One of the things that Amanda Flinn, the author of this blog post, says is like, we have this head knowledge of knowing that God created our kids, that God, they wouldn't even be here without him. Like, he knows them better than we know them. He loves them more than we can ever love them. And he knows their future. Like, he knows them. And she says, I can trust him with that. I know that. But she said, as their mom, I want the best for them. But she says the best doesn't always mean safety and protection. Mm-hmm. And I think that is where we will be challenged as parents, is when, if we see the natural potential consequences or aftermath, or the other side of the XYZ, or the potential burning their hand on the stove, or burning the food, or starting a fire, or whatever it might be. It's like that constant wrestling of, how do we let our kids really trust God with the kids? And so anyway, that's what I saw when you were like giving that visual of the kites flying. It's like, oh yeah, wait, I'm not the one holding the string. God is. And we actually want our kids to rely on him, not us.
Right.
And
to give them that space to do that, to give them that space to fail. And like, yes, they might burn themselves on the stove, but chances are it's going to be a quick little one. And that teaches, oh, hey, it's hot. Right. So I know that can be an issue of safety as that escalates, as you say. But what are the small ways that we can let out the kite string to let them learn in the comfort and love of our own homes, not to cocoon them, not to keep them safe? I mean, my greatest prayer, Amanda, for our kids is not that the Lord would keep them safe. My greatest prayer is that they would know him.
yes,
because that's beyond physical safety, beyond what they can read, what they're exposed to. That is a closeness that they're going to need that far supersedes me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It should be our heart's desire, right? That our kid, and that's what Amanda talks about too, that as parents, we can't possibly know, what the future holds for our kids, but we can teach them to rely on, to depend on, and to point them to the one who holds their future, who has the answers, who provides that peace. And I think, our oldest is in 7th grade and our youngest is in kindergarten. And so I'm always learning and relearning and having to figure out how to learn again and again and again how to do this. And I want to grow in this. But if the goal is not, even though it's easier for us to have the answers and easier for us to correct and easier for us to give them all the, whatever type of boundaries and like limits and all the things that keep them exactly how or should predict the best outcome for our kids. If what we want more than that is that our kids know the Lord and just love him and are so convicted about what he's done that they want nothing else but to follow him, then that does actually require us to be willing to point them to him and not us. And that is hard. And
Right.
I'm learning that in the practical ways of like everyday living, that looks like me withholding maybe what I think, like what I want, what I believe is best, and asking my kids questions like, have you asked the Lord about what to do?
Mhm.
Like guiding them and starting to coach them on, well, have you asked God about this? Like, have you prayed about it? Have you waited to see what he wants to say about that?
Mhm.
Instead of me, I know what I think. I know what I think you should do and how you should respond to that friend and blah, 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 and what time you should get up for that thing and blah, 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 how much time you should spend studying and whatever it is. It's like beyond that. This should be, we're like coaching them as we coach ourselves. Have you
Coaching.
asked the Lord about it? Have like going through these questions of why am I, calling my friend or my mom or my sister or when I haven't even gone to the Lord about it? Huh. Or right? It's this interesting process.
I love it that you say coaching, because even as a parent, if I'm standing there and trying to be a traffic cop, where I am saying, oh, do this, don't do this, stop, go, right? If I'm not a traffic cop and I step back and I coach, that means I can give insight, I can ask better questions that help them change the results. So, for
And
example, I can say to them, hey, you have basketball practice this week. Hold up while we have a minute 2 days beforehand. What are things that you need to have ready? And help
and
them think through.
and that exactly. That's such a good analogy. It's such a good visual. Traffic cop versus coach. Coaches, I actually love coaching women in within marriage issues or just life in general. But one of the things that if you've ever had coaching, you know that you don't. The main goal is to ask questions. So even when you just said, hey, you have basketball on whatever day. Instead, we can even ask because we're coaching them to think about what's to come even. So, hey, what do you have going on this week? We already
Right.
know what they have. Come on, let's be real. We've got every whatever. We've got it. We know it all. What's on the schedule this week? What do you have going on this week?
Right. And to set
Now,
aside time on Sunday night where we review that.
yeah, even, right. And like if we sense that they're gonna maybe go down and I don't know, we don't have PlayStation, but if there's that even a thing anymore. But like if our kids are gonna go down and play PlayStation, like, hey, and we know that's not the best, way to spend their time right now because they have guitar practice in an hour and haven't practiced all week or whatever. It's like instead of saying, what are you doing? You need to practice guitar. You have guitar in an hour. Like, hey, time out. Can we talk about what's going on maybe this evening? What do you know that do you have anything going on this like I'm working on that because then it's getting them to really practice the reflection that's required in making wise decisions. If I'm making decisions for them constantly, they're not going to learn how to make any decisions and then learn from the potential consequences that come if their decision isn't a great one. One time I remember I did this with our daughter, and she had some decisions that she was going to make, and I said, well, what do you have going on? She told me. I said, so what do you feel it would be the best? Have you prayed about this?
Hey,
Said,
Amanda,
yeah.
sorry. My computer's about ready to die. I got to get a cord. Hold that story.
Okay. Friends, we're just holding. We're holding. Pause.
So one time your daughter.
Yes, so we're back for those on YouTube. So my daughter was in the midst of making decisions based on, what she had. And I asked her, have you asked the Lord about this? Have you, you know, what what do you think then based on this would be the best? And she made her decision. And I knew as the mom, that's a bad decision. Like I'm in my head, I'm like, yeah, that's not a very good one. But I didn't say that. And I said, okay. So literally she shows up for guitar practice and she had not practiced. Like literally she had not I think like one time for like not long. Okay. And I kid you not, I was like, Lord, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Drop her off, pick her up. And she had a very, I mean, it was emotional for her. It was painful for her to sit in the consequence of her lack of preparation that week. And I knew that was the best thing for her. And she didn't like it. And she learned, I never want to do that again. And I've not had to bother her, about that because she knows she does not want that experience again of sitting there and being unprepared. And so, but she wouldn't have experienced that had I not. And that's a very minute example. I understand that. But even as they're adults, like I counseling is my background and working with, so I know it's a minute example, but when I'm working with even, my background is in counseling, when I'm working with women who have adult children, this never goes away. This feeling of like wanting to correct or advise and change or give our, input and opinion on certain matters. And not that that's necessarily something we shouldn't do, but it just goes back to this topic of, am I actually trusting God in that? And am I willing to allow them? Am I coaching them in questions like, have you asked the Lord about it? Have you prayed together, with your spouse on this yet? Have you, and if so, and if you feel good about it, whatever decision that is, great. But it's just a scary and challenging place to go. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it starts with asking them better questions, like you're saying. And I think that Amanda Flinn here is saying even to teach kids to know the one who holds their future and holds their day. So a wise mentor of mine, she talks about always linking what we're saying to our kids to a truth. So for example, it's not clean up your room, I can't walk in here. It's a hazard. All true statements. But saying, please clean up your room. We want to take care of what God has entrusted to us. If it is too much for you to take care of, then set those items outside your door and we will give them to someone who can. Because they continue to accumulate, as they grow up and outgrow toys and clothes and whatnot. So linking it to that truth is one of the ways I try to activate what she's saying, and that is to teach them about the Lord. You have said too that linking it to truth, but we try to teach the kids to stop and pray and involve the Lord in their struggles. Even when they were very little, we stopped and prayed like, Lord, I have lost my water bottle. Please help me find it. I mean, at age 3, we've been doing this, and now it's super convicting when they do that. As I'm like, where's my bag? Where's my bag? I'm trying to leave. We're in a rush because I've created this rush. And they say, well, have you prayed about it? And so we stop because I want them to know that God cares about those little things. So rather than tell them that, we try to show them that.
Yeah.
And say, ask him where it is and he'll show you. And they learn that trust. They learn that asking him and that he will be trustworthy and help. And I pray too, I'm like, Lord, I know this is a small thing, but they're praying about their water bottle, please, right? And I cannot think of a time where he has not showed us what we're looking for. And so if I could teach them in small ways, then that will continue to grow as they grow.
I love that. And oh, that's good. it it reminds me so often that when I'm able to not tell my kids what I think they should do, and I'm able to remember that I want to um, coach and guide them to the Lord, that is, not to me or what I want them to do, but coach them to figuring that out and seek God and what He's saying about it. When I'm able to do that, and when I do ask, well, have you prayed about this yet? Have you talked to God about it? When their answer is no, I'll follow that up with, well, would you like to do that? Or would you like, if you'd like me to pray with you on that, I'm happy to, so oftentimes that's in the car, right? Like after an explosion with friends happened or something. And have you prayed about it? No, not yet. Okay, well, would you like to do that alone, or would you, if you want me to pray with you, let me know. And sometimes it's just like 50-50, right? Like, no, I'm too upset and I just need to talk to the Lord about it myself. Like, or no, I'm so
Mm,
distraught about this. I need your support in that. And that's a beautiful thing too, because it helps teach our kids that this is what safety looks like. This is what community looks like. I'm bringing this to you and I'm too tired, or I'm too like I'm in such a hard place with it mentally. I need you to pray on my behalf. And, you know, um, but that's so good. Like those little things, He cares about it all. If they care,
right.
if we care, He cares. And so He wants to meet us there in that. It's good.
Right. I love that. You're a great example of asking them, are you ready to pray about that? Mark and I have a way that we talk with each other. At the end of the day, we'll kind of download things that happen. And he might say there was a tough situation. There's one in particular that continues to come up right now in the season. And so at the end, I go, okay. And I do this, which is my sign like, I will pray with you on that. I'm waiting for you to grab my hands and to pray. And so
Mm.
it's a way that we have in our relationship that calls us both to not only talk about it, but then talk to the Lord about it and turn it over to Him. And that's a really gentle way that we have to turn each other back to the Lord. It can also be used in situations where you're like, sweet me, we have talked about this a couple of times. We need like a big breakthrough. And so to
Mm.
turn that over, our kids, but that's convicting how you say you do that with your kids. I don't do it to that level, but I'm challenged to try that.
I don't know that I'd be this challenged if our oldest wasn't as old as she is right now either. So,
Okay.
and I'm still learning, obviously. But
Right.
as the
Same.
older she gets, the more I see she's fully capable of seeking Him and allowing Him to guide her and wait for Him to show her, and all the things
Mhm.
that we just can easily step in and do ourselves for our kids. Um,
Right. I think as Amanda is saying here too, she says, have I prepared them to be on their own?
mm,
And that goes to a place like, am I okay with knowing that they may fail or they may stumble along the way? But have I prepared them to be on their own? Did they forget something at school and I'm tempted to drive it to school and give it to them? Or have I prepared them to manage consequences, work around that, and to learn from that lesson? That's a great example about the guitar lesson. And if I can't answer as a mom, if I haven't prepared them on to be on their own, and I can identify a couple key areas where I haven't, then that tells me as a mom where I need to be focusing on,
mm.
areas I need to focus on with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think this comes down to like the all of parenting. That's so hard. It,
Hmm.
and it gets more difficult in different ways as our kids get older. And again, we're just like into this teenage stuff. But walking with so many friends, just women who have kids that are older. Um, I think it comes down to, how much are we willing to walk ourselves in those places we maybe don't want or we want to avoid walking in. So I think there's a big difference between, and Amanda Flinn points this out. There's a difference between actually trusting the Lord with our kids. So like we can say that, we can know that he's in control. We understand that they're, that he's got them. There's a difference though between that and actually like allowing God to take care of them.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and that goes for us. Like, I can trust God. I can say that I trust God even with my own life and my own marriage and our family. I trust him that he's got it. But am I actually like allowing him to take care of it all? That's not always, they're always not both true and accurate. So I think for myself, what I see is, am I willing to actually pray the scariest prayer of my life and say, have my kids, Lord.
Mm.
They're already yours.
Mhm.
But I want you, like, have your way with my kids. I want, and you, like, his will is best. And
Mhm.
me speaking out and declaring, God knows my heart. He knows our heart for our kids. He understands our heart.
Mhm.
He hears our prayers. He knows what we're asking of him. And above and beyond that, Lord, I want you to be glorified. I want them to so rely and so be convicted about who you are. I want you to have your way in my life, in our marriage, and with my kids. And it's almost like that heart of surrender that says, like, God, I fully trust you. That
Mhm.
so much that I'm willing, that I want you to have your way in their lives, not mine, because I know that it's best. So therefore, I'm going to
Mhm.
step aside here and I'm going to relinquish that rope of that kite to you. That's how much I trust you. That's different than just like saying and understanding God's got this. It's like, no, I actually want him to take care of it too. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah, it's really taking it from almost helicopter parenting and hovering, that we were touching on before, and really releasing the reins. And I think of a little hanger I have down in our home that says Psalm 127:3. Children are a gift from the Lord, a reward from him. And I think of our sweet ones laying in their bed at night, that they are a gift from him. And if that is true, then I am a steward of their life
Mm.
and every part of their life. And there are some key words that stick out to me. I mean, even as you were talking, you said allowing God to take control, but steward always resonates with me when I talk about our kids, because or if you have my husband's an attorney, and so there's a distinction between having a will and having a trust in terms of like a legal document. So if you have a trust, your house is actually owned by the trust. And you, as the married couple, are the stewards of the trust, right? Your cars could be titled to the trust, as he's explained it to me. And I think our kids are in that too, that we are stewards of their lives and the experiences that we provide for them. And it helps me to step back, because when I start to step in closer and kind of want more and more control, it can be a really tight place for me and for them. And that turns me into more of a traffic cop,
Yes.
versus when I step back and can release and say, God, I really do want what's best for you. That's just a different ball game altogether.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful picture. That's what we want. And it doesn't happen overnight for anyone watching or listening. Like it's that, like we were just last episode, we talked about strengthening that muscle, right? Of trust and strengthening each of these spiritual muscles. And it takes time. And so we can begin discerning when we are traffic police and when we don't want to be that. And then we can step back and walk with them and ask questions. And, so it's like a process. So don't be hard on yourselves. Give grace when you aren't like, oh, I totally directed traffic there. Yeah. I mean, yep. It's like our reflex. So have grace. And yeah. So,
Amanda, I think sometimes adopting a new behavior is uncomfortable. So, how do you deal with sitting in a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable? How do you get comfortable with that?
mm, well, that's a great question. I love getting uncomfortable.
Oh,
It's like my jam. I think it's because I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I don't know. I think it's fun to be at the end of the day, for me, what wins, just like when I've talked about respecting my husband, I don't want to respect my husband. I don't want to. I don't think he deserves it. Sometimes, like, I don't want to respect him. But beyond that, I want to honor the Lord. And so therefore I respect my husband. So it's the same thing with my kids. For me, I want to tell them what to do. I think it's easier for me to tell them what they should do and how to do it and when to do it and what it should look like and all the things. Way faster, way easier. But beyond that, I want to honor the Lord and I want them to love him and follow him, not me. I want them to rely
mm,
and go to him first, not me. So, in order for that to happen, it just looks like, and it requires me to step back and to ask questions versus telling them. So
mm,
for me, it's exciting because I know that however uncomfortable it is, that's fun. Maybe that's where the fun comes in for me as a 7. I know that although it might be uncomfortable, it's exciting because what God can do in that space is something I never can do. So I invite that. And if they don't, the cool thing is if they don't know, so often if you start asking your kids questions, more questions than you typically would, and they don't know, that's the best thing ever because you get to invite them into navigating that and waiting on God for that. Like, well, I don't know either. If you don't know, then God hasn't spoken to you about that yet. And
mm.
therefore, I don't want to. Like, I'm going to let Him, and He's going to guide you in that. And it might not be what I would think, but that's what I want beyond what I want to tell them. I want them to sit in that uncomfortableness themselves and wait and rely and listen and be with Him. And that's exciting to me because that's what we want.
Right.
So,
So you almost want them to get comfortable with being uncomfortable from
yeah,
what
and
I
I think we, condition our kids to come to us for answers and for all the things, which I don't think is always bad. But I think it again, it is frustrating for them, especially for our kids who are type A's, who just tell me what I need to do, like tell me how to solve this math problem. Tell me how to blah blah blah. I don't get this, mom. Just tell me. And so for those types of kids, it's even more frustrating for them because they don't like that. And they're
mm,
used to us telling them XYZ. And so that's a good, healthy thing, right?
mhm.
For them to sit in that and be angry with that. That's okay. And even you can talk to your husband and say, like, okay, I listened to this podcast, or I've been, I feel convicted by this. And I want to begin trying to, really coach our kids versus, and again, this is age specific too, right? When our kids are toddlers, this isn't going to be the season for that, right? Like 18-month-old, you can't ask your 18-month-old, have you processed this with the Lord yet? No. So, I mean, there's that. You got to know this is like seasonally too. You can't, but as your kids get older, you can work into this. You can build in and you can move into this season. And you'd be surprised at how young they are when you can ask these questions and the coolest responses they will give you. But it's that guiding that it's just so different. And it's a beautiful process, but it takes longer too, and that it can be so frustrating. So,
I think I always take notes because then that helps me when I intentionally try to learn something and change my behavior. So I'm writing down some of the things that you're saying, but I think those are really good action statements, and good questions to ask ourselves, even.
yeah.
I think in Romans it does, like Romans 12:2, it talks about don't conform anymore to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that starts to talk about the arena that Amanda talks about here, that there are the world's ways and there are God's ways. And to be gut level honest with ourselves and say, which do I really choose? Because, I mean, some days it's, and it's an intentional choice. It really doesn't matter how long you've walked with the Lord. Like the struggle is the same every day to choose Him more than I choose me, more than I choose the safety that I can see, and to keep a tighter rein on that rope, to control. That's not a word that we've said, but it is certainly in that camp. And to instead say, Lord, I don't have to control, because I know that you really do have our best interest at heart. And that can be a really hard place. I have to start there, because if I start there and I can settle that with the Lord and even be honest and pray that and say, I have a really hard time trusting you here, then I can walk through that and grow as a mom and as a wife, as a woman, in ways that are going to benefit them, but it's going to benefit me in my relationship with God.
And that's what's beautiful. I think back to a recent conversation with my kiddo. Well, it was this summer, so not super recent, but my oldest daughter asked me a hard question. She said, Mom, is it bad to wear crop tops? And I wanted to give her a simple answer, to that question and tell her what I think. But again, above and beyond that, I didn't want her to listen to me. I didn't want to give her an answer. I wanted her to find her own place in that, with that answer. And so I admitted to her what you just said. I said, Mom really wants to tell you right now what I think and what I believe about that, but I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell you what I think. I want you to just, really dive in and figure it out for wherever the Lord leads you on that. And that's what happened. And oh man, is it cool. And so that's the goal. Like, and even just the beauty in admitting that, going back to what you just said, like telling our kids, even, Mom really wants to tell you right now what you should do. But I don't want to do that. I want to tell you, but I'm not going to. What I want instead is to practice relying on the Lord, like telling them what we're doing, putting words to it, is helpful for them. It's teaching them. Oh, well, what does that mean? How do you do that, Mom? Like, it's so cool to learn, have them learn with it. I'm learning, son, daughter, that it's easy for Mom to tell you what you should do. And I don't want to do that. I want you to seek the Lord in what to do. I want to help you do that. Like, that's just beautiful.
That is so wonderful to see that and to hear you say, to share that with them, because we can read in God's word where He says, talk about God's truth as you lay down and as you walk. And sometimes I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I'm supposed to sing Jesus Love Me 24/7, right? But that, Amanda, is a solid example of how to verbalize and tell them, I'm having a hard time with this.
Yes.
And here's what I'm trying to do instead, because that is going to teach them more about their relationship with the Lord. It doesn't become this, well, I grew up in a family. We went to church and that was it. And we dressed up and my mom was kind of crazy about that. I don't want them to have that experience. I want them to know how to divide things out, because they know how to discern the Holy Spirit. And I think that comes with stepping back, but it comes with asking better questions of them, and before that, to ask better questions of ourselves. Why
Yeah.
do I react that way?
And share honestly with them that you're trying to discern things for yourself. It's just honesty. And like, they learn as we are honest about what we're struggling with and not knowing how to handle things. Like, I don't really know what to say right now. And I need time to ask the Lord about it. And like, what do you mean? I just don't know what to say right now. And so I'm going to ask the Lord about, processing outwardly with them, communicating what we're
Right.
trying to deal with and what we're trying to figure out and what we're waiting for him about and all the things. Such a beautiful process. Um, and that's really how Amanda Flinn ends her blog post. Her wife step for this blog post is just pray for your kids and then trust God to do everything else. Like just trust him. And that again is so much easier said than done. But we hope and pray that this was helpful for you today and that you can be zealous to be quick and to want to enter into this whole maybe new process or in a different way of asking questions of practically walking with your kids in learning what this looks like for themselves and telling them when you're struggling to trust and that this would be our quick prayer. Our go-to prayer would be, Lord, have your way with my kids. Have your way. Your will be done here with my kids and with our family above my own. That would be our heart's posture with them. So thanks, Amanda Flinn, for that blog post. And again, head over to amandaflinn.com to check out all of Amanda's resources. She's got a great book, Yoga Baby, so cute. Oh my land. So get that for your kids. But she's so great. And we thank you for your words for this time together too, as we dove in today. So yay for that. Kelly, every episode, ladies, we're talking about something special, and I never know what we're going to talk about. So, Kelly, I'm afraid to ask, what is this something special this episode?
Well, it's kind of cozy season, and we're talking about our kids, so I want to know, like, blankets. What do we do? Do we do bins, baskets, or ladders? This is something I have to deal with in my house, so I'm polling the audience here. Amanda, tell me. Drop your comments below. Are we doing bins, like wire or wood, baskets, or ladders?
To store blankets?
Yes.
None of the above.
Okay. I'm sorry. Fourth option is the floor?
Fourth option is none of the above. Fourth option can be none of those.
Okay.
And instead, it's a complete disaster 24/7, and the blankets are who knows where, and they're all over the place. They're on beds, they're on the floor, they are on the couches right now. One is under our Christmas tree. Here's a fun fact about us. We love blankets. I love blankets. Probably have like 5 blankets on my bed, and they're everywhere. Our blankets are everywhere. We live in Minnesota, PS2, so we've got a lot of blankets. But there's no way we could ever store any of these blankets in a nice, cute fashion because there are probably 40 blankets in our house.
Yeah, I'll give you the Minnesota on that, that factor. But see, here in the South, in St. Louis, and some of you are like, that's not the South. Okay, it is, because people say y'all, and you can order sweet tea at a restaurant. Those are your 2 qualifiers, okay? So it is the South. And so, like in our living room, we only have like 3 blankets, and it's the middle of winter, and that's fine. So I don't like visual mess. I like everything has a place, and if there's no place for it, it needs to go, right? Because then that's too much. And so, I don't know. You didn't help me there to know if it's bin or basket. I'm not really a ladder person, but I could get on board with that if someone shares a solid argument. So I'm still.
Wait a second.
Bin or basket?
I'm even confused. What's the difference between a bin and a basket?
Well, a bin would be wire or wood, okay, and a basket.
What is a wire basket?
I think IKEA has one. I don't know how to say it other than it's this. Sometimes I talk with the hands instead. It's a large basket made of metal that might hold blankets, and then a basket would be a woven thing. And so textiles are a big thing to me. So I tend to lean more towards the basket. But hey, let us know. Drop it in the comments if you have so many blankets that it's not even an issue, or if you're one that likes to have things put in place. So you see, we're opposites.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love it. And you know
Yeah.
what? I love that you just said, if you have so many blankets, it's not even an issue. Let me reassure y'all, it's an issue. It's just
Okay.
that we've got no system for this issue, and it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And I am okay with that. That's where I'm
Great.
at.
That's great. It sounds like we should come to your house. It's going to be cozy.
You
My house,
should.
you're going to need to work for it. You're going to need to get up and go over to the bin or basket, get that, and come back to the couch.
And if you're at my place, you just gotta squish to your side a little bit, lift up your one tush a little bit, then do the other, and you've got a blanket. You're sitting on it already, and you didn't
Right.
even know.
Love it. Love it.
Friends, we love you so much. If you have not gone over to awifelikeme.com, do that and sign up for our newsletter. Literally, this is so great. Every single week, I spend my entire Thursday morning until like noonish. My goal is to wrap up so I can eat lunch every Thursday. I write our email newsletter full of all of everything that we've done this week. So you've got the recap of the blog posts, the podcast episode. And then it's the only thing I really write on a weekly basis is I write something special in that email newsletter just for you, just for the ones that are on our email newsletter. So when you go over to awifelikeme.com, just scroll down all the way to the bottom and join the email newsletter. Every Friday you get that in your
Love it.
inbox, and it's full of fun stuff. And actually, we just finished up 10 weeks of Christmas giveaways. So we do fun things like that. We send out extra freebie stuff, downloads. We'll have inside content in there, maybe some of our teachings from our Wife Like Me collective, all the things. So just make sure you're signed up for our email newsletter, awifelikeme.com. And
I
thanks.
have a freebie. I should send it to you. We could share.
Well, absolutely. We
Right.
need it.
As soon as we're done with this, I'll get it to you.
Thank you. So we'll send that out in January then, since we just mentioned that. So friends, thank you for joining us today for a new episode of the Wife Like Me podcast. And hey, if you're not aware, we are also streaming live recording on YouTube. So a Wife Like Me channel, check it out. And if you prefer watching on YouTube, you can do that as well and subscribe so you don't miss an episode on whether you're listening on the podcast or over on YouTube. So Kelly Brinkman, we love you. Thank you for being with us. You're a gem. And we'll see you back next week.
All right.
Bye, everyone.